So now we're turning to you, dear participants, because it's time for you to ask some questions, and therefore I would like to ask you to turn to the Q&A function. It's on the bottom part of the screen. You can see the two speaking bubbles, the Q&A, or in my case, if you also have a German version, it's F and A, but don't get irritated. And there you will be able, I think, to ask questions if I am correct. If that doesn't work, you can just as well use the chat function, and I can see that there are already two hand signs up. But I guess I need some help from my colleagues. So are there any questions? I know after being in a listening mode for some time, it needs some time to reactivate your fingers. But if you want to ask something, if there's anything that you would like to ask our dear esteemed speakers, please don't hesitate. Also double check with Carmen. Do you have do you get any remarks from your colleagues that are taking care of the technical?
I'm not reacting, the two persons, but so I will start. Thank you for this very interesting speeches, Mr. Schopper and Mr. Lambert, and also for the commissioner. We are especially interested in the effects that the new rules and the new strategies have for elderly. You have spoken about the health system, and this is very important. We know all in our countries now, elderly had a little bit excluded because of protecting them, but also for protecting others. But it's also a question of dignity, how they can move and decide themselves. And are there strategies to overcome this big challenge between protection and self-direction? This is one of my questions. And my second question will be, we heard a lot of adult education, also for seniors, and we would be so interested to hear what can be done and what can be the role of universities, and how can we foster universities of the third age, also in the Danube region. It's existing a lot in the western part and in Slovenia, a little bit in Zagreb, but there are a lot of people waiting for this, and whose would be the best practice example to show how it can function. So please let us know what's about elderly and adult education, but first, the balance between protection and self-organization and self-responsibility. Who is giving me an answer or trying to?
Lambert, would you like to maybe react to that?
I can try to respond, but I'm not sure that I have an answer to all questions. And first of all, I want to apologize my not so perfect English, because I normally work in German and French, and so I will do my best.
Well, thank you.
I think that the demographic change is still one of the great challenges we have on the European continent. We have also other challenges as environment, but demographic change is very important and also very specific in Europe. We have an other demographic evolution than continents like Asia or Africa, and especially the African situation will be for me, is the biggest challenge we have in the next years for many reasons, but it's not the question. Elder people have one special problem. They are living in a world where everyone speak about youth. You must be young. If you are older, you are only a charge and not an asset. And I think that is one of the most important conclusions we have to take. The experience of elder people is very important, but it must be integrated in the new societal context. This societal context is a context of permanent change and even more speed in the change. And that is also a challenge for older people. But if we have only a look to what will happen in the future, then we make a mistake, because the experience, the history, and all what has been done in the past is very important also for the future. I always say we must have a look to the future through the glasses of the history in the past. And elder people are very important on this way. So that is also a question of perception, of media context, of psychological aspects. Then we have a concrete issue with elder people in our systems of social protection. We have the big challenge of pensions. That is a great discussion about solidarity in our society. And we must change the system of the pension financing, because we always finance them in a great measure with contributions taken on the salaries, and that is not the good way in a time where employment will disappear more and more because artificial intelligence will change completely. There we have a great question, and we have also very much elder people in Europe who are living around in poor situation, and that is even dramatic in certain places. And then we have the health system. The health system is a great also ethic question. You know that 80% of the defenses are done during the 2 last years in the life of people. And you have seen also now in COVID context that on many places there was a discussion what happens with the elder people. They are the most affected by death. In my country, for example, in Belgium, half of the deaths are happened in the institutions where older people are living. And we must find a system where the way to treat elder persons is not only a technical aspect, but also a value question. It is an important question of value. What happened with elder people? How can they organize their life if they have diseases and other things? And so that is a very important cost factor also. And it is also a question of subsidiarity, of solidarity. These are big issues, and there is a certain form of taboo about it in many circumstances, and we must have a very deep social debate on it, and we must create the conditions that the necessary solidarity can be maintained and paid in the future. But, and that is for me the most important aspect, so as it was said, older people have a great potential, and we must protect their autonomy, their possibility to express themselves and to contribute and to participate on the social life, and also find a correct way to organize the outstep from the professional life. There we must have great flexibilities, new formats, and I think that the future of the work is also a big question of the future of the professional activities or the social activities of elder people. There, the concept of self-determination is very important, but we need also a trans-generational approach of solidarity in our societies.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think this is also a very important message on looking at elderly care, not only from a technical point of view, but also on the value system that we apply on social inclusion and participation in society. I hope, Carmen, this is also answering your question. Are there any further questions that you would like to ask now? So far, I can't. I see that there is. I see. Oh, I see a hand is raised. So please.
Thank you for the very interesting discussion so far, and thank you for raising the question about the attitude towards elderly as a value question. This is really very important to underline the intergenerational solidarity and to avoid all discriminatory policy measures and all this speech which is putting older people in uneven position. I have here more practical question, and it is concerning the Interreg programs. As a former director of my institute, scientific institute, we worked in the years on these Interreg programs. However, we met one major difficulty. And this difficulty is that the pre-finding of the activities. And this is really a hard requirement for scientific institutions. And for overcoming this difficulty, we voluntarily reduced our activities and our contribution to the project because of this requirement. And here is my question: what could be the solution in such cases? Because I find the program very useful and the collaboration very useful. We had, for example, collaboration in the field of adult education. And as I mentioned, we reduced our contribution and our involvement due to this requirement. Thank you.
Ms. Lammers, would you want to?
Are still bureaucratic. It is not so evident to make projects even in the context of people-to-people projects, who are the smaller projects. And there we have accumulation of administrative burdens coming from Europe, but also from the different member states. I have often seen, also as I was president of the European Association of Border Regions, that you had different regulations on the national level, the two sides of the border, and so you had a need of different reports coming from the same project to national authorities. So it's a big question. And always the objective was to reduce bureaucracy, but the result was always more bureaucracy. Except this time, I am very positively surprised that the regulations actually under discussion came to some kinds of simplification. And the decisions done the last weeks and months in the context of flexibility after COVID give even more possibilities to work on a very flexible way. But that is very important. You need certainly also controls, because not all things what was done with Interreg was perfect. And I will not go into details, but I could even give all a conference about it. That is very important, that we can be as flexible as possible, but we need good projects who are really trans-border projects and not constructions with the aim to find a financing for things that cannot be financed other way and that have no real trans-border importance. But one of the main obstacles remains the pre-financing. That's what was discussed. That is a big question. And it must be solved, on my point of view, on the national level. Europe gives some possibilities for private financing a project, but the last part of finance comes always late after the end. And that is a big problem. And in my region, but it's a small region, we always decided to pre-finance our different projects with the money of the region. And so it was a problem for the region and not for the projects to wait on money. And that is the best way to do it, but it is not always possible to do it for financial reasons, but mainly for principal reasons and political reasons, because the trust of the authorities to the project is not great enough. And I think that is the best way, and I completely share the point of view. The best program, the best projects cannot be realized if the different actors have not the possibility to pre-finance what has to be done. And it is even more important to find a solution on that than to discuss only about the amounts in general. It must be enough money, but it must also be available.
Thank you. Thank you for this clear words, but also thank you for this question. I think that this is very common for a lot of civil society organizations and research institutions, not only, but a lot of the stakeholders do struggle with the framework, with the technical and financial framework of Interreg, because of some constraints such as pre-financing projects. Nevertheless, it's also something that we deal with on a daily basis in our priority area on institutional capacity and cooperation, and constantly try to talk with national authorities, with European authorities, actually, on also how to maybe support stakeholders to actually also take part, as it is also supposed to be. Because I think the European idea is to have actually a broad stakeholder involvement. I've got also a question now from our Q&A box from Sevda, and the question is: so 1/5 of the population of the European Union is age 65 or over 65, and the retirement age is in the majority of EU countries is further increasing. So the question is, how will these people work when most of them lack new media skills? What will the EU authorities do to deal with these problems, which has become even more important in the time of Corona? Yes, because we had to adapt quickly to digitalization and digital tools. And is there a strategy and any specific measures? I guess this would be also a question to Commissioner Gabriel. Unfortunately, she wouldn't be able to answer it now. But Mr. Lambert, do you have actually some insights also from the discussion from the Committee of Regions and from on the European level? Did you actually came across the question of how to keep elderly people in the labor market and kept keeping up with the challenges of digital work?
Yes, so that is a typical issue that need shared actions on the European, the national, and also, and not at least, on the regional level. And I think that is one of the important aspects of the future evolution of the European Union. We have 3 levels, and if we want to be successful, they must really work hand in hand and not one against the other. In the context of the retirement system, we have the first issue, that is a regulation. But now, until now, the regulations in the different countries are really different. Also, on the level of the age of retirement, see what happens in Germany and see what happens in France, even at the moment when France tried to go a little bit higher in the age. So it is a great social discussion how long people must work. And there we need European exchanges, and we need also a certain harmonization on the European level if we want to have a European strategy. I think that the 2 aspects are important. We need more flexibility in the last part on the professional life of people. There must be found adequate solutions for doing something else than stop radically at a certain moment and to try always to bring this moment later in the age. There are needs for creative solutions, and it is possible to find also very interesting experiences around Europe. The other aspect is the ability of elder people to participate in professional life. And that is clear, and the coronavirus virus crisis demonstrated on a very radical way. We are going to a complete different context of working. Digitalization is not on the end, but just on the beginning of his introduction in the social and professional life of people. And personally, I am not a great fan of digitalization. I prefer really to be in Ulm than here on my bureau today. but we must be realistic. Digitalization has also many advantages, and you must just find the correct way. And if you want to do it on a way that left nobody behind, then we need a new concept of lifelong learning. In the past, you went to school, you learned something, I hope, and then you had a profession, and after that you came to retirement. Today you go to school and you have to be prepared on activities that still not exist today, but that you have to manage tomorrow. So we need another approach to learning, and lifelong learning is the most important. And digitalization must also be accessible for elder people. And you must find the correct activities, and that is also a big challenge for all organizations who are working in this field. And it is also something what must be pushed and financed via European initiatives. And then we will also have the influence of artificial intelligence. Personally, I am convinced that artificial intelligence will destroy more workplaces than that will create. But that is not a problem per se. It is only a question of distribution of available work. And more than that, distribution of the created added value by this system. Because for me, new forms of work must always be combined with a correct and equal distribution of incomes. And there we have great deficits in the world, all over the world, and also in Europe, where we have certainly one of the best systems of social protection. But there we are before great chances. And I think that one of the biggest one is the situation of elder people who became more and more elder, and it is a very positive aspect, especially if you remain your health, and so things will change very much in the future.
Thank you very much to this response on how to deal with elderly employers in the future, and also how to reinvent also learning and education and lifelong learning. I think we do have another question from Ms. McCarthy, if I am correct.
Yes, thank you, Claudia. Hello, everybody from Ireland, and I'd like to say thank you so much. Like Teresa, I think there are some very positive things coming out of this era, in that we can I can attend this conference and keep my fingers crossed that I'll see you all in person at perhaps the next festival. I am working in Cork on a Learning City project, and what I wanted to ask, I think I will take the heat off Monsieur Lambert and ask Carmel a question. Carmen, I am interested in that digital divide. I think that the answer is somewhere in the intergenerational piece, and we use a system of learning neighborhoods, which is change at a local level, self-directed. We invite people to come along to share their love of lifelong learning, to introduce people in their own locality within the city to opportunities to experience the city, to experience different types of learning, to celebrate the learning that they do. I think the answer to that digital divide question is in that intergenerational piece. And I wanted to ask you, Carmen, if you had experience of any answers coming up through your festival activity.
Oh, our team is intergenerational. And this was really so good, because the youngest had been very, very strong in techniques, and they had a middle age group, and then I'm the oldest. And I had questions and some good practice and organization tools and so on. And so combining this, it was really, in so few time, we had a real good experience. And I think it can show that we have to foster this. But I see also a very good chance to take profit of the elderly, of older persons. They have a lot to share, as Mr. Lambert said, and the potential. And I see that a lot of women, don't like to be on Zoom because it's technique. I think we have to convince them it's not about technique, it's about communication and mutual cooperation, and also sharing and helping. This how to do it. And so it's theme orientated and not technical orientated, and we have to move. But I think that also for youngers, it's very interesting. I see it in all my work that we have so a lot of topics to share, and not only about techniques, but about very interesting questions. And now in time of Corona, about, as we said, self-regulation, self-determination, or regulation by the state. And so a lot of things, ethnic values and so on. And so by online, it's easier to approach them because they are busy, they are in educational and other fields so engaged. So we can take profit also of these online communities. And I think what you are doing is very good, not only to make it on the high level, but also in small communities, in quarters. And I think the best is what we try to do, to bring together people in communities, local communities, but to bring them in context on international level with other people with the same interest in other localities, in other countries. And so they can share. And this is my vision, that we have a sharing community of values. And this today can be a good chance to bring together people who share this idea, and we can develop ideas and we can cooperate. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lambert, would you want to?
No, I completely agreed with what Carmen said, and it is exactly what matters.
Nothing to add. Excellent. So this leaves me, I see we have to come to an end because we also have to take some time to recharge our batteries again. Just one note that was provided also to our Q&A box, and this was just a comment from one of our participants, Hanna Tepova. She just wanted also to point out, and this is also very encouraging for our future, that yeah, there are arguably challenges in how to keep up with digitalization and digital progress, but at the same time, younger people now will also be future seniors. And maybe we also, in the transition of education, we are also learning more to actually learn, not just stop learning after high school or after university, but actually keep up learning and being also more digitally educated. Yeah, so I guess encouraging maybe also for the future that yeah, this will also change a bit. Okay. All right. So I think I hope that yeah, that so far you will be, yeah, I hope that we answered all your questions or most of them. I'm aware that there might be still some questions coming up also in the course of the day, but this is also maybe all the more reason and all the more opportunity to discuss this also in the groups and the workshops that we have later on in the afternoon. So this leaves me now to say thank you, a big thank you to Mr. Lambert, also a big thank you to Mrs. Schopper and Mrs. Gabrielle and her colleague Mrs. Koleva. Many thanks also to all the participants who also shared their questions and their thoughts with us. It was a great pleasure